I'll give you another example which has caused us a lot of problems, which I almost never read about in the press. There is legitimate concern about the North Korean nuclear test, about what Iran's nuclear ambitions are. Neither of these problems have easy solutions now. But our position has been weakened because for at least half, I'm sorry I don't know how many, but at least half of the last 6 years, the administration has asked for funds to research the development of 2 new nuclear weapons. One, a nuclear bunker buster, even though we have a conventional bunker buster that's quite powerful. And 2, a so-called tactical battlefield nuclear weapon, which the administration admits, had it been deployed, they say it's small, but had it been deployed in the Iraq conflict, would have taken out 25% of Baghdad. So there is this sense that the world is divided between the good guys and the bad guys, and the good guys should have their nuclear weapons and the bad guys shouldn't. We might all feel that way, but it's a very hard argument to make. I had an 8th grade science teacher who was one of the most physically unattractive people I ever met in my life. He had thick Coke bottle glasses, and he smoked cheap cigars in a cigar holder that caused his mouth to pinch. And he had been a football coach before he became a science teacher. And he gained a little weight after he turned to science, and he still wore the same clothes. And let me tell you why I said this. One day in class, he said to us, I was 13 at the time, 47 years ago. He said, "You won't remember anything about science in a few years. So if you don't remember anything else in class that I teach you, remember this. Every day I get up and I go to my bathroom and I wash my face, throw water in my eyes, I shave, I wipe the shaving cream off, I look in the mirror and say, Vernon, you're beautiful." And by the end of the year, he was beautiful to me. I say that to remind you it is very hard to succeed in politics when you're telling people they're ugly all the time. You have to oppose people who do things that are wrong. But it is very hard to say there's going to be one set of rules for me and another set for everyone else. I think the common good approach on national security worked. It was a combination of carrots and sticks. We did have military encounters. We didn't succeed at everything we tried to do, but I think on balance, the world was safer when we stopped than when we started. Now, the same thing works in politics. I think the central challenge to American politics today is that what I would call the uncommon good approach has been so successful. May not be in 3 weeks, but it has been. We believe in a politics, us common good folks, dominated by evidence and argument. There is a big difference between a philosophy and an ideology on the right or the left. If you have a philosophy, it generally pushes you in a certain direction or another. But like all philosophers, you want to engage in discussion and argument. You are open to evidence, to new learning. And you are certainly open to debate the practical applications of your philosophy. Therefore, you might wind up making a principled agreement with someone with a different philosophy. If you look at the welfare reform legislation which passed, for example, when I was president, I vetoed the first 2 bills because they took away the guarantee of food and medicine for poor people. When those things were put back in, I signed it. Some people who shared my philosophy did disagree with my decision because they said that we shouldn't have a hard and fast requirement for people on welfare who are able-bodied to work. I disagreed. I thought work was the best social program, and I thought it would help to overcome a lot of the pathologies in the families of poor people. And I also think you should never patronize the poor. They're basically as smart as the rest of us without the same breaks. So I thought that. So we had a conservative idea in welfare reform. If you can work, you got to go to work. But in addition to that, we had one of the reasons that it worked is that there was a huge increase in support for people to go to work, a huge increase in childcare, a huge increase in transportation assistance. A lot of these people didn't have cars, a huge increase in worker training and support, and other things that were essential. In other words, because we had a philosophical debate with plenty of politics and 2 vetoes, we had a creative tension which led us to a dynamic center, not a mushy center, a dynamic center that worked. The problem with ideology is if you got an ideology, you already got your mind made up. You know all the answers. And that makes evidence irrelevant and argument a waste of time. So you tend to govern by assertion and attack. The problem with that is that discourages thinking and gives you bad results.